You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to everyone's favorite bi-weekly source for all things options goodness. Yes, it is time once again for episode 2 of the beloved Around the Globe program known as the Option Block. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. So, of course, from the ever-exciting, at least we tend to think so in these necks of the woods over here. Of course, if you want more in your lives these days, you want to get, exclusive content like great pro Q&As, as well as options oddities, where we dive deep into the weird and wild trading going on throughout the week. Also talk ourselves into some weird and wild trades, all for your entertainment and education, as well as a great pro podcast feed to get you access to all that stuff. Maybe you're a new joiner, a new member there, you haven't had a chance to check out the old stuff. Well, there you go. It's all there waiting for you. Quite a few exclusive premium shows that you can put in pretty much any podcast player on the planet, or use the Castos app to get it directly. Of course, pro Q&A giveaways as well, which I do believe, or maybe we'll do that for later today in the old mail block. Maybe we will draw our winner for the Pro Trading Crate for the month of September. How do you get access to all that stuff? How do you get your name in the hat to win fabulous prizes? Exclusive podcast feeds, live streams throughout the week, everything else. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go. And let's see who's joining us on the old program today. First, if you hear some explosions in the background, do not be alarmed. He is just shooting at the clam pirates as we speak. I have visual confirmation of their encroachment during our show, listeners. So he has to run out. If you hear some profanity and gunshots in the background, you'll know why. He is, of course, the Rock Lobster himself, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Mr. G, how goes the ongoing battle with the clam piracy?
As of today, the pirates are winning. They're winning. They're in. I sent you the photo. I sent you a photo so you could see the rampant piracy that exists currently right now. Very, very, very rough business.
He's not that far away. He's easily within range. I mean, I could hit him from there. You should be able to hit him. Should be no problem.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I could hit him. No, dude. He's definitely close enough. He's close enough. But I think I as usual, I will let the clam pirate play their trade and move along.
You should have a little sign that says my toll is just 1/3 of whatever you gather. Just leave a little basket there, and he just has to drop 1/3 of his clams on the way out. That's your toll. And you're standing there with your shotgun just to make sure the basket's full. That's all.
Yes, I think it would make me feel like a feudal lord. Please drop 1/3 of your clams onto my dock as you are leaving, Michael.
Yes, that is your toll for daring to enter into the waters of the GIOVINAZZI compound. And he's also water adjacent. He's near the Fox River. I do not believe they have the same rampant clam piracy problem that they do out there in the shores of Maine. He is the uncleist of Mike's, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, how would you deal with clam piracy right on your doorstep, sir?
I really don't know. It's something I've never dealt with before. I mean, we don't even have carp piracy out here. We have carp, but no one tries to do any piracy. So that's a good thing, I guess.
That is a good thing. Let's see if the markets are having a good day or not. We'll find out. It is time for the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
Of course, welcome to the trading block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading. And after a couple of sessions where it seemed like everyone and their mother was putting on their bullish hat, we were just rip-roaring to the upside, listeners, just exploding up 2+% a day for a couple of sessions in a row. Yesterday, we saw a little bit of rally, then some sell-off, and then ending the day kind of red out there. Today, we are back in the red. S&P off almost 0.2%. The Dow off about 0.75%. NASDAQ off about 1/3. So once again, NASDAQ playing the laggard role, which is a bit of a new role for it. It's an understudy of the laggard role. It likes to lead the charge to the downside or to the upside. But these days, it's being a little bit more of a laggard out there, which is intriguing. In terms of action, we got a little bit of red on the screen. But actually, we also have red on the vol screen. That shouldn't come as any surprise to you, listeners. We've been rip-roaring for the last few sessions out here. So we're at some pretty lofty levels. We were still north of 30 when we kicked off the show, listeners. So, well, not the show off today, when we kicked off the week, obviously. So that takes a lot to maintain a VIX north of 30. So even if you think, oh, we're down, the markets are red, vol should be popping. Yeah, it takes quite a bit to maintain a VIX of a 30. And right now we are not maintaining that. We are below 30 yet again, listeners, 29.25. Down, not quite 3 points, about 2 2/3 points from where we were on Monday's show. So still obviously very frothy. At 29 VIX is nothing to sneeze at. But back below that magical, mythical 30 handle. Can we hang out there? Is this where we're going to be hanging out for a while, below 30? Or is this just the calm before the proverbial storm? Hit us up. Let us know. Also, make sure if you haven't done so already, vote in our question of the week. You got one day left, listeners. It's all about, do we need that spike over 40 in VIX to signal that the end is near, that we've seen the broad market has conceded the game? Back in May, 43% of you said that you needed VIX to spike over 40. That's what you were waiting for. So we're revisiting that now. The question right there, you should be able to find it at options on Twitter, listeners. What level does VIX need to hit to signal a quote-unquote bottom in the market? VIX north of 40, VIX north of 50, VIX north of 60, or no VIX spike is necessary? We'll get to your results a little bit later in the show. Let's run down the list now. We said VIX 29.25, down nearly 2 2/3 points or so. VVIX 94, down a whopping 10 points from where it was this time last week. Also, why we're starting to see vol come in a little bit. VXX 19.5, down 0.5 point. UVXY 1150, down about 1/3 point. SVIX, our inverse friend, 1110, actually up about 1/3 point. And UVIX 1190, down 0.6 point. And VolQ 3330, down about almost 0.75 point, about 0.7 point from where it was on Monday's show. So vol coming in, but not exactly precipitously yet. We shall see. Let's go back out now to the uncleist of Mike's, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW, sir. What is lighting up your tape in, at least so far, not an Uncle Mike type of day, sir?
So I mean, it's kind of flat today. I mean, I think the big story right now is just earlier in the week how we had those two 100-point days essentially in the S&P. Yesterday cooling off a little bit. So whether it was a short squeeze, whether it was just reaction to the dollar weakening, or whatever it may be, it's done right now. We did not have any follow through with yesterday, but in reality, if you had 200 points of positive movement over the course of 2 days, you don't necessarily get the follow-up the third day. It's not necessarily the end of the world. But what was impressive yesterday is that we were down, I believe, 60 points at one point during the day. And then we actually came back. We were actually positive for a little while yesterday. So that's pretty impressive when we have a sell-off like that and buyers come in. So definitely noticing that. I think that one of the big things that we need to watch is the commodities at this stage. How with oil production doing what it's doing, how is oil going to react to that? Is energy going to be a leader in the marketplace? If it is, I don't see that as a bullish thing. I think technology or financials need to be the leader in the markets for us to have a good, sustainable rally. Sustainable is a fun word that we're talking about in relation to the business of clam piracy, of course. So we need to see something along those lines. And the 10-year note just doesn't want to catch a bid. It just wants to kind of sit there and have the yield over 3% and be happy with that for the time being. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how markets react to non-farm payrolls tomorrow, or the unemployment report, whatever thing you're looking at. But I know about an hour before the market opens, that's going to be kind of a big deal. I think we're going to have some movement with that, and just to see if we can somehow get some type of a gauge on this inflation thing. So I think that's what I'm seeing today, and I'll pass it off to the talkers of clam piracy prevention.
Inflation. What's inflation? It's all transitory. They told us that. The Fed told us that. So we should know these things by now. Inflation, very transitory. All right, let's go now. As he mentioned, I think he is mid-battle. So again, if you hear some explosions, some screams of pain in the background, we'll know what's going on. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, thank you for breaking away from the battle with the clam pirates. What is lighting up your tape in this kind of interesting day?
Well, it's a lot of seesaw action. Down, up, down, up, down, up. And I think that I agree with Mike. The jobs report is big. The JOLTS jobs report, the amount of openings reported dropped a huge number. So this rate rise has folks pulling back hard on new hires. Everybody's a little spooked. They're not knowing how it's going to go on. So I think there's that. It's kind of I don't know. Anytime there's a huge sea change, everybody freaks out at first, and then it takes a while to get used to it. I don't think anybody in finance that has where you got a couple of neurons rubbing together would think that it was time that we raised rates because our national debt is up 35% in 3 years. Now, we had 200 and something years prior to that, and in 3 years, the debt's up 35%. Now, I don't know about you, but I think the government had gotten a little bit out of hand on that 0% interest thing that they were doing. So some sort of tough love was necessary to get them to stop or to slow down or whatever, because now obviously, they borrow those dollars. It's going to cost a lot of money at this point. So it was necessary. It was overdue. It was overdue for the Europeans. And now we have to adjust. And the Fed is trying to walk expectations down by having the rhetoric they're having on inflation. They're not giving up. So the only thing that makes them give up, of course, is if inflation slows, which I don't think creating jobs necessary is an inflationary thing. It's too many dollars chasing what we have. So we've had several government spending initiatives over the last couple of years, the last 3 years. And the only thing I can hope is that they stop. They stop spending. So that is right now. It's hard you could look forward in the market, right? As Mike would say, long-term bullish, short-term cautious. There are a lot of bargains out there, but we've got some numbers to get over. So there's going to be gyrations. VIX is 30. Expect about a 2% move per day, one way or the other or more. And it's not going away until, we're going to have this daily chop until we get a beat on this inflation thing. So my sense is that unless we have another severe energy problem, similar to what the Europeans are going through, I think inflation will start to come down somewhat. And also a lot of the things that help cause inflation the system has kind of been working through to some degree. I think people forget that not having people go to work, having mandates that further put pressure on employment situations, having supply chains strained, and throwing a lot of money into that mix, it's not a surprise we had what we've got. Now those things have to be reversed. And at least as of right now, housing is cooling. Used car prices are cooling, stuff like that. So there's positive things. People's grocery bill, though, and a lot of that stuff is energy related, right? Energy costs are still high. I think a lot of stuff is still pretty expensive at the grocery store. When my wife comes back and is happy about her grocery bill, I'll know that inflation is done. That has not happened in about a year. So I think this is what we have. There are some interesting, I think bargain stocks out there, but I think we have the chop, and I don't think, vol's going away, and we have the CPI number next week, and that ended up, being the last cycle. Everybody got pretty excited that the number was going to be lower, and there was a pretty good bid run into it, and then everybody's hopes were dashed. And the whole thing is with this, what the Fed's doing is they don't know how long it's going to take. There's no, they can guess, right? They have econometric models and stuff like that, but ultimately it's like take spaghetti and throw it at the wall and see what works. And that's where they are. So I think we're going to have a market that's going to stay like this. However, I would say, though, that from last week, we have not seen new lows. Volatility has not made new highs. And what I would say, the skew number that I look at with our proprietary stuff, those vol skews are relatively low given where at the money volatility is. So there isn't huge demand for that, 3,300, 3,400, those junk puts. So I think it's more of the same. It's going to be kind of grinding around up and down. And if, the jobs numbers that we've had already this week, we had an employment report and ADP report, they were kind of cool as far as, okay, we're not making jobs super fast. I think that would give, the market to, give us a little impetus to go a little higher. Like I like TOSAW's 3,900 number that we seem to be gyrating around. And I haven't seen anything to sort of shake us of that as of right now. So it still feels like sort of that gravitational pull number, which just things are like, okay, we have an economy. It's kind of going along, but there ain't anything great happening right now to light things up. And I just think that's the situation we have. And it's not going to change until one of the things that has made 2022 so crazy, improves. I haven't seen one of those things actually improve yet. Save maybe Elon Musk taking over Twitter. Maybe that will be the spark that gets all this stuff kicked over.
Yeah, because that's what Twitter needed, more drama. There's not enough drama on Twitter as there is. They need a dose of Musk-infused drama. Else, maybe it'll turn into some paper, because they're certainly seeing some numbers out of Twitter these days. Out of Tesla these days in terms of volume from an option perspective. Spoiler for our most actives in a little bit. But let's go around the horn now, listeners. See what kind of numbers we're seeing out of this interesting day out there. VIX looking pretty respectable right now. 412,000 contracts. That's north of what the ADV was. Just a few weeks ago, we were below 400,000, not too long ago, listeners. Now that ADV is 549. Seems like it's definitely on pace to hit that out there today. Let's just pull it up really quickly to see what is lighting up the paper out there today. Looks like we've got the NOVE 60s, 42,000 of those, and the Feb 65s, about 39,000, and the NOVE 65s, 39,000 as well. So maybe a bit of a roll from the NOVEs to the Febs, and then also some action on the NOVE 60s. Either way, That's a fair amount of paper. That's about 120,000 contracts just in those 3 trades right there. Intriguing stuff out there. SPY also looking pretty robust, 4.01 million. The ADV, 8.85 million. Again, if you want a deeper dive into that VIX paper, tune in to Vol Views tomorrow, listeners. We tend to do that on that show. The S, 1.5 million contracts. The ADV, 2.8 million out there. So again, 1.5 million contracts. That's nothing to sneeze at in the S, and we are already there. So definitely a pretty active macro day. We'll see if that holds up on the micro side. IWM, 332,000. The ADV in small caps right now, almost 1 million, 970,000 contracts. You know, things are popping off in the market when small caps are hanging out close to 1 million contracts a day. If you want a deeper dive into all things small caps, as well as just about everything else in the world of futures options, stay tuned. We got a good one coming up in Twifo in about exactly an hour. Dan the Man Gramser will be joining us to break down just about every futures options product under the sun. I've yet to find a product I could throw at that guy where he was like, I'm not familiar with that one. He can go off at length about just about all of them. So stay tuned. Should be a fun show coming up in a little bit over there on Twifo. If you listen on demand, of course, just wait a bit for it to hit the network and then hit next on your device of choice. The Qs, 1.33 million contracts right now. The ADV, 2.88 million out. Let's get out to the single names. Let's see what's going on from a micro perspective. And a pretty light day to kick things off. Only 160,000 contracts. That's all it cost you to break into the top 10 today. That gets us to our old friend NEO. NEO back in the top 10 again after a bit of a hiatus out there. 1491 right now, off about $1.13 or about 7%. So they are coming for NEO today. Stock selling off. They're saying even as quarterly deliveries rise. So folks not liking what they're seeing out of NEO out there right now. Good for $1.60. Number 9, the artist formerly known as Google, now Alphabet, of course, Google, 179,000 contracts for number 9. Number 8, ExxonMobil. Don't see them popping in, but of course, our friends at OPEC making them all the rage right now. Deciding, we didn't have enough inflationary pressure in the world. Let's just jack up energy prices again. Because why not? What's the worst that could happen? Adding a whole bunch of fuel to an already raging fire. What's the worst that could possibly happen? Thanks, OPEC. 101.61 right now, up about $2.50 or 2.5%. Love it when it's around $100. The math pretty easy there. And again, good for the number 8 spot, 188,000 contracts. Number 7, this one getting kicked to the curb a little bit today. Usually it's glued at number 3. Today it's number 7. It's the Amazonians. We're also jumping up a bit to 340,000 contracts. So that's a big jump from 8 to 7. The Amazonians off about 20 cents. So not really a big move for them today. Only about trading right around 120 3/4 right now. Number 6, our old friend Meta. Hanging out there with 368,000 contracts, 140.25, up about $1.25 right now for Meta. Number 5, now we're getting into chip range. Usually the 4 to 6 range is usually the chip range, and that's pretty much the case today. Number 5, AMD, 434,000 contracts on the tape, up about $1 or 1.5%. So AMD can rally after a lot of sell-offs. AMD can rally a bit out here. Let's see, just earlier this week and last week, it was 63.60. So it's had a nice $5 pop, 5.30. So not a bad little pop for AMD. Number 4, you can probably guess this one, listeners. We're just talking about it. It is the Musk effect on Twitter. 453,000 contracts for Twitter. Twitter 50-70 or so, off about 60 cents or 1.25% right now. I guess Musk is going to buy. I guess he's got to buy it now. Bots and all. That's the problem with maybe saying you're going to buy something and then saying you're going to do your due diligence after. Usually you do that the opposite way around. You say, I'm thinking about buying something. I shall perhaps do some due diligence first, and then I shall announce my intention to make the deal. When you do it backwards, this is what happens. All right, number 3, busting out of the chip range a little bit, taking the number 3 spot today. It's our old friends NVIDIA, 522,000 contracts on the tape for NVIDIA, popping about $1.14 or not even a full percent. They're trading at 133.25 right now. Number 2, this one is kind of firmly in the number 2 spot right now. This is Apple, 727,000 contracts, off about 6 cents, 146.33 right now. So they're back from the 130 handle that they broke into not too long ago. But let's see, how low did they get? They got to 138, pretty much even before they bounced off it recently. But nowhere near the numbers they used to put up. And once again, Tesla doing pretty much 2x, 1.46 million contracts on the tape for Tesla right now. Tesla off a whopping 60 cents, or trading at 240 and a 240.20 or so. So that's about 1/4%. So they've had a decent range. They got as low as 235 and as high as 244.5. So pretty big range on the day. Hence their 1.4, almost 1.5 million contracts. Tesla is hitting the 1M level just pretty much every day now. So Tesla is moving into a different stratosphere when it comes to overall options volume. Speaking of options volume, it's that time, listeners. We have the numbers hot off the presses from our friends over there at OCC. Let us see what the world of options had in store for us in the month of September. You could probably tell it was probably a pretty active month. Let's see just how active was it. September, total volume, 915.2 million contracts. That is nothing to sneeze at. That's closing in on that mythical 1 billion contract month. Haven't quite hit that yet, listeners, but we are on pace for it. That's up 12% from September of 2021. We all know 2021 was no slouch when it came to volumes. That's a pretty impressive number. It is also the third highest month in the history of the options business. If that sounds familiar, it's because August was just the third highest month in the history of the options business. That has now been kicked all the way down to number 4. September says, hold my bear, kid, because he's coming in, beat it by a whopping 0.3%. So not talking a huge beat, but enough to take the number 3 crown. ADV right now, 40.8 million contracts. That's how much the business is averaging a day, listeners. That's up a little over 5, about 5.1% from this time last year. So it seems like we are on pace. That question we've been asking all year long. Can this crazy ride, the juggernaut of the options machine, can it keep on chugging? The answer so far is yes, listeners. So 2 back-to-back third busiest months in the history of the options business. Nothing to sneeze at out there, including, speaking of threes, the third busiest day in the history of the business was also last month, September 23rd, 61.1 million contracts changing hands over there at OCC. So nothing to sneeze at. A couple other highlights here. ETF options and index options. Once again, the lion's share of these gains coming from those two. After both of those kind of languished throughout most of the pandemic, they are coming back with a vengeance right now. ETF options up 61.4% compared to September of 2021. Index options up 54.1% compared to September of last year. So again, nothing to sneeze at. You can find all those numbers for yourselves if you are so inclined over there at Options Clearing Corp. Listeners, in terms of earnings, you know we're coming to the end. It used to be back in the day that Alcoa signaled the beginning of the cycle. Other things have kind of taken that throne now. But you know we're coming to the end of the cycle, listeners, when our old friend Helen of Troy is back. We had them popping off on Wednesday of this week. So when you see Helen of Troy, listeners, you know you're pretty much at the dregs of the season. It is time to re-rack and prepare for a new season. And also, we have Tilray finishing off the week there tomorrow. Levi's, you want some jeans vol and you want some spices vol from McCormick today? We got you covered out there with hot off the presses earnings move results, and earnings season reports. Let's see, how much spice vol is there? I guess let's find out. Popped off before the bell today. McCormick, ticker symbol MKC. We got these numbers hot off the presses from our friends over there at ORAS, listeners, right before the show here. They went into their announcement 73.31. They're pricing in, get this, 5.3%. There's nothing to sneeze at for spice vol. And they delivered 0.6%. And they're up 0.6% right now. So that's a whole heck of a lot of nothing. So if you're on the dark side there, you're looking pretty good in good old McCormick. Not a name we've ever covered on the network before. So that's always fun. Let's look really quickly. We had Constellation Brands before the bell today as well. About 236 is where they were trading going into their announcement. They're pricing in 3.8%, and they delivered 2.8%. Actually, even less now, 1.3%. So 2 for 2 in terms of a whole lot of nothing on the earnings vol front. Let's go out to Conagra Brands really quickly, too. They're popping off for the bell. Headquartered here in good old Chi-Town. Ticker symbol CAG. They were at 236 going into their announcement. They're pricing in. Actually, I'm sorry. They were at 33.80 going into their announcement. They priced in 4%. They delivered whopping 2.2%. So far today, at least, underperformance is the name of the game. We got Levi's after the bell today. 16.60 is where they were as of this report. They're pricing in 82 cents. Actually, they're pricing in $1.30. In the past, they've moved 82 cents. So fair amount of extra juice out there in Levi's jeans. You want to check that out for yourselves, listeners. You know where to go. TheOptionsInsider.com is the place to begin your journey to the dark side. I'm looking here at the earnings season report, listeners. It has been wiped clean. The slate is wiped clean. We are prepared. We are bracing for the onset of the new earnings season. So as soon as we have some updated numbers for you, listeners, we shall embark on that journey together as we keep on rolling into the mad journey that is the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody. Let's do it. Let's get weird. Let's get wild. Let's unleash the Eye of Sauron. Speaking of Eye of Sauron, you watching that Rings of Power show? You like it, listeners? I'm curious what your thoughts are. I have some thoughts on that one, but I won't get into those here. Instead, let's just dive in here to the weird, the wild, the whimsical paper that's coming across our tape here. And let's kick it off with Synchrony Financial. Going back to this one. This one's been a frequent offender on our radar of late. Right now, trading $31.50, off about 22 cents. On the year, let's see, a year ago was about almost $50, $49.85. They hit their high for the year in early October, $52.50. Since then, it's been pretty much straight down. They hit their low for the year back in June, $27.22. So they're obviously about $4 north of that, a little more, $4.30 right now. So they have rallied a bit, but not really sustainable. Actually, they have rallied this in the last few sessions. They were $28.80 again back last week, and now $31.50. So they have rallied just in the last week or so. What do we find out here today? Someone deciding they need some puts in Synchrony to the tune of 17,188 of the Nove 28 puts, paying $1.10. They weren't playing around. They lifted the offer. They said, we want all these bad boys. We'll take them all. That is about a 60 vol, listeners. If you are intrigued, the stock was about a dime lower, 31.43 when these went up. This is November, so let's see when the earnings are. The earnings are on October 25th, so they will definitely have earnings in this cycle. So that adds a little bit of interesting color to this trade. Always intriguing to see when folks actually put the hedge through earnings and what that means for them. By the way, if you're wondering, the last time we discussed Synchrony on the show, it was back almost a month ago, September 15th. We talked about kind of the opposite trade. Talked about someone coming in and selling 8,000 of the Nove 29 puts and selling those for $1.08. So this is not quite 1x2 if they were doing it that way, but it is within the realm of consideration out there. The stock at that time was about $1.30 higher. It was $32.73 when they sold those 29 puts. If you're wondering, those 29 puts that they sold are still open. They're trading for a little bit more right now, trading for $1.40 as of this morning. So those puts are looking a little bit worse for wear. So it is possible someone could be coming in to buy 2X, try to leg into the old 1x2. Weirder things have happened. But Mr. Rock Lobster, what are your thoughts on all things Synchrony and just the abundance of puts we've been seeing out there, both dark side and light side, sir?
You know, we were looking at those puts today, and it all looked kind of dark side to me. That was the 28s, right? There was like 20,000 or the 58s. No, 20. Yeah, the 28 puts.
28 puts, yeah.
And I thought that was a pretty aggressive put purchase, to be quite honest.
That it was. They're lifting the offer. They ain't playing.
Going down, huh?
They're not playing. They're just gobbling up.
Yeah, you know, it's you don't see that super often, I think. Like, you know, kind of a larger, diversified financial company like that they come in and just scoop up like out of the money puts like that when everything's already kind of at the bottom. So that was, and we could not see any stock against that position either. So it looked like just maybe they own stock. I just found that one. I found that one interesting. Now, now on the flip side here, you thought that there was a seller of the 29 puts for 108.
Yeah, that was back on September 15th. We talked about them on the show.
Right. Let's see. And interesting. So this was just, to me, it looked like, and I think the total volume was over 20,000 today on that strike, as I recall. So it just looked like a big old bearish chunk of paper. You're buying the November 28 puts for $1 to hedge your 29 puts for 108. That doesn't kind of make any sense to me. But that's a head scratcher, I'll say. Just that is quite a head scratcher of a trade. So I should make it easy. I get this trade. They're buying some puts because they think the stock is going down. But it's that would be new. That's basically the low of the year. And I'm looking at, it hasn't really been that it's basically at pandemic lows or below pandemic lows. So this is just an odd one because it just feels like, okay, there's going to be a huge shoe to drop somehow. That's the only way I can see this. This is just a, kind of standard bank consumer lending thing. Stanford, Connecticut. Is it a Synchrony bank? I don't even know which bank did they buy a bunch of other banks and rename it Synchrony like 5 years ago when they do all this weird rebranding of banks? Again, this is total head scratcher of a put purchase, but just bearish, like super bearish at not very far from the bottom. So I don't know how else to parse that one. 20,000 of those puts traded today, though.
Nothing good comes out of Connecticut. We all know that here on the show. That has been established. So, yes. All right, let's keep on rolling here into a name we haven't talked about in quite some time here on the network. This is Western Digital, usually because nothing really exciting is happening out there. You get excited about a bunch of hard drives. Well, then there you go. Western Digital is your name. Ticker symbol WDC. Trading 36.64. They have come for it this year, off 35%. A year ago, it was trading 56.43. Hit its high, actually not in November or December, but actually in January. Hit its high of 69.36 on January 4th. So this year kicked off literally with a bang for them. And then just almost immediately afterwards, by January 28th, they were trading $49. So they sold off hard there. And they sold off again to about 46 in April. Then they tried to rally it. They got up to about $63 in May, so close to their high, and they sold off again. By July 1st, they were trading $43, and it's been pretty much down from there. They got to their low for the year just last week, $31.56. So they've had a nice little pop over the last few sessions. They've enjoyed this kind of week of mostly rally outside of today. They're up from about $32.50 to, they hit $37.19 this morning. Now they're trading $36.70. So still off on the year, but looking a little bit better out there. Mr. Rock Lobster, it's like we got somebody playing fast and loose with some puts out here and making some money to boot. Let's see what the heck they were up to. We first noticed a print of 7,501 of the October 34 puts going up through the offer for 99 cents. The stock was about $36 at the time. We thought that's kind of interesting. Then our eye of Sauron said, actually, hold the phone. That was on 10/12. And then 2 hours later, right around 12:15, we saw another block of those puts go up 7,500 times for $1.21, but as a spread against 7,500 of the OC 36 puts for $2.05. They were selling the 36 puts for $2.05, buying the 34 puts for $1.21. So then we thought, well, that's weird to see the same print pretty much twice. We have seen that in the past. Talked about that on Oddities recently. There was a weird print that kind of went up twice, but then they kind of busted one. So we looked into that to see if that was the case. But actually, no, this is pretty much your old house money roll. It's kind of what it seems like. Usually, listeners, when someone is doing two of the second leg of a spread, and obviously they are closing on, well, we think they're closing on the 36 puts, and they are opening on the 34 puts. And when they're doing 2X, that's usually a good sign that, they're sitting on some house money. They got some money to burn in their pockets, and so things are going well. So we thought, you know what? Just for clarity's sake, let's have our Eye of Sauron go figure out when they open those OC 36 puts. And you might think, I don't know, last month, couple of months ago, something like that. Nope. They opened those OC36 puts yesterday, Mr. Rock Lobster. They scooped them for $1.09, and they're already dumping them today for $2.05. So hats off to this person, first off, because how often do we profile trades that are huge winners and they sit on them and they do nothing with them? So this person getting the heck out of Dodge, but in asterisks because they're just reopening 2X. They decided they're not done with Western Digital, listeners. This thing has more explosive downside to go because they're putting the money that they made back to work buying 2X now of the OC34 puts. So Mr. Rock Lobster, a lot to unpack here. A pretty wild one-day profit and a pretty staid name like Western Digital on these puts. And then he's taking them off pretty quickly, so props to him. But then he's diving right back in with 2X of the 34 puts, sir. What do you think of this one?
All I'm doing is I'm going to say hats off to this customer because clearly there's some kind of widget. Well, on the Pecos, this stock used to be called Widget, by the way. Widget with Western Digital. It was one of the hottest traders in the 80s when storage was becoming a thing. But of course, that's bringing everybody back about 40 years. So, and it is still it is not trading the same multiple that did though in the late 80s, as I recall. So, this is what I find curious. Okay, so the stock is like it was a $75 stock in 2021. It's a $36 stock now. And they made money buying puts like near the bottom. So this is clearly somebody that sort of knows what's going on. So they're buying these puts, getting out of them, and now they are. And now it appears they're trying one last shot at the bottom on these things, like a little house money roll. But I think that feels like they are not looking as good on these ones, though.
No, I'm not as enthused about these.
Yeah,
but who are we to question this person?
I mean, they made their money and they're going for it one more time. So I think what the heck. But to me, I would just think this is a better put sale just on a valuation level for Widget. But I see it. I don't know. It's like the market for me right now is I just can't get ultra bearish, even though things just appear so kind of crappy everywhere. But I can't get super bearish on a company like this. I guess it could go to $30. If the liquidity just, we have kind of a liquidity problem and everybody just, hits the bricks on it. Like that certainly could happen, but it's a hard, I don't know. I feel like it's a hard one to roll at this point, but they were right the first time. So
who are we to dare to question it? But yeah, that second leg might be some heavy lifting they have to do there, but we shall see. Maybe there's a lot of dark side in store for Western Digital. You like that one, listeners? Now let's get out of here on this one. This is TCDA Inc. This is a newcomer to the odd block. Sounds like a biotech, and it looks like it is. Ticker symbol TCDA. Looks like they make drugs for chronic kidney disease. This is all the hallmarks of old school odd block fun. So let's get into this one. Trading $11.86 right now, so a little bit more expensive than our usual $2 to $3 biotech here on the show. $11.87 right now, up 47 cents or 4% today. It's a nice little pop for them. On the year, a year ago, they were trading $4.25. So they're up a whopping 175% on the year. And then they shot up to their high for the year was actually just in August of about $13.85. And then they fell right off again back to $8.50. That was on September 23rd. And then they have rallied again from there all the way up to where they are right now, $11.87 right there. It's another $3 and change to the upside. So as any good biotech would do, they're all over the freaking place. And speaking of all over the place, Mr. Rock, I just love this. This is good. We got someone coming in this morning. This seems too rich, but hey, who am I to judge? Someone scooping 9,911, so they're not messing around here, of the Nove 22 half calls. Yes, 22 half. I just said they're trading 11.88. They were trading $8 a week and change ago. The high for the year is 13.85. Someone scooped the 22 halves. And the best part of this, they paid nearly $4 for these things. $3.75. Holy goodness. That's a 360 vol. If you are, this is like old school meme paper from a year ago, listeners. Wow. The market was 245 at 380. They pretty much lifted that offer. This was all opening paper. The stock was a little higher, so that might account for some of it, but not much. The stock was 12.26. It's not that much higher. And there are earnings between now. I would hope you get earnings for that price. My God. The earnings are on November 8th. Wow. This is juice, Mr. Rock Lobster. 9,009. Let me say that again. 9,911 of the Nove 22 half calls. Paper buying those for nearly $4. Mr. Rock Lobster, if this is not the most cliche of odd block paper, I don't know what is, sir.
It is something. I have to say that. I think, well, you know what? You look at what Biogen just had a $75 jump the other day. And Regeneron had about a $50 or $60 jump. So, I mean, that's biotech, right? It's it's kind of all or nothing, right? But I would have to say this was almost the type of paper that the odd block was invented for. Just the fact that, okay, I remember trading Biotechs and selling these options, right? And thinking, there's no way that stock gets there. But, of course it could.
I don't know. You want a Biotech with a nearly $4 dividend between now and November? I've seen worse things. That's a pretty juicy chunk of change.
I just remember just being long a ton of stock, and you sell those calls, and like, oh, it almost never really worked out. But this is what a designer. Okay, they're treating something, removing acid from the gastrointestinal intestine. This is. I guess what's funny is if people just had better diets, they wouldn't need all these gas drugs. But hey, it's hard to tell people to put down their Big Macs. But I mean, clearly, so this is, it's got a market cap of $500 million currently. So they're looking, like, hey, wow, this drug will be $1 billion drug. So again, none of it is actually unreasonable given what normally happens if these drugs work. So I guess listeners would have to see what's going on, vis-a-vis the, what's going through the FDA and stuff.
The Nove 5 puts also trading for $2.30 today, $2.30. The 5 puts, and about 6,000 of the 25 calls have traded for over $3 today as well. $3.25, Mr. Rockwell.
Yeah,
this is just juice for days.
Yeah, well, the 12 straddle is worth more than the stock.
You could buy the stock and sell the 25-5 strangle for over $6.
Yeah, I think if I'm trading this, I just buy the stock and sell the strangle 1-to-1.
Yes. Why would you not? What's your downside? Got a few bucks to the downside, but not much. My goodness. Oh, I'm watching the thing. It's like 200 tomorrow, right? But still, yeah. Wow. Yeah, we said it before.
You buy the stock and sell. The straddle is $12.80 bid, and you can buy the stock at $12.50, or buy the stock at $11.87.
$11.87. Yeah, done. Here we are.
That sounds okay, right?
Oh, wow. I'm at a loss for words on this one. This is instead. Let's keep on rolling. See what kind of words you guys have for us. A little bit of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Mail Block. I see in our chat, Option Guy asking about anyone get an adult Happy Meal from McDonald's? Yes, I forgot. I'm so busy this week. Yes. Yes. My son was like, Dad, we got to get one of those with cactus plant, whatever the hell they're called. They're effectively the adult Happy Meal. Dad, we got to go get those. And so we went the day they were available on Monday. Not for the food, but because they're bringing back the old school character. So you can get Grimace and Hamburglar figures in a Happy Meal again. They haven't had those in forever. So, of course, being a red-blooded American that I am, I wanted a Grimace. And, of course, I didn't. I got some abomination known as the Cactus Guy, Cactus Jack. Well, luckily, my wife got the Grimace, and she was kind enough to share it with me. So now I have Grimace staring at me from my desk, listeners, and he is glorious as I knock everything over to go get him. But, yeah, only thing that's weird is he has 4 eyes. They've done some weird abomination with the 4 eyes thing. But other than that, I'll have to take a picture and tweet it out. So, yes, it is nice that Grimace is back in our American hearts here a little bit again. If you missed, you're not a creature of the 80s, listen, man, what the hell is that giant purple thing? But I was never a Ronald McDonald guy. I was always way more into Grimace. So, yeah, check out those. I think they're called Cactus Plant Flea Market, something like that. And that's what it's some artist collective that they partnered with to make these things. But the whole point is that you can get Grimace again. That's what's cool. So head on over there. Why should kids have all the fun? Why can't adults get a sweet Grimace for their desk? And he's staring at me right now, and it warms the cockles of the old heart, listeners. Speaking of warming the old heart, let's see what you folks are up to out there in terms of, do you think you need our hearts warmed with a little bit of the old terror from a VIX spike? I remember back in May, 43% of you said we need VIX to spike over 40 to signal concession in the broad market. Oh, I see our listeners, they got Cactus Jack. Yeah, we got a couple of those too. I got a feeling there's like 3 Cactus Jacks for every one Grimace. Everyone wants Grimace, of course. Everyone's tweeting that they got Grimace. Nobody wants the Cactus dude. So, yes, keep going until you get a Grimace out there. But, yes, we gave you 4 choices. Does VIX need to hit north of 40 to signal the bottom of the market, north of 50, north of 60, or no VIX spike necessary? Uncle Mike, first off, have you had a chance to get a delicious Grimace figure at your local McDonald's courtesy of their Uber hipster designer collector boxes? And then B, what do you think our audience is voting for in our VIX poll, sir?
VIX poll, I'm going to say that they're it does not need to go to 40 for us to bounce back on the S&P. In terms of the adult Happy Meal with Grimace, I have not as of yet, but I'm with you. I would like Grimace. If I were to get one, he'd probably be my number 1 pick, quite honestly. Grimace was a cool dude. And if there was a Cactus Jack, well, there's only one Cactus Jack that I'd want, and he's also known as Mankind or Dude Love.
Exactly. That's the Cactus Jack I want. I don't want whatever that weird little abomination. There's also a Hamburglar. I'd be down for a little Hamburglar, too. But Grimace, definitely number 1. Mr. Rock Lobster, I won't bother to ask you because I know there are no McDonald's selling hipster adult Happy Meals in your neck of the woods. And maybe if there is, you could surprise me. And then B, what do you think our audience is voting for in our VIX poll, sir?
Oh, I think the audience did think we need that over 40 for capitulation. But I don't think we do. And as far as McDonald's goes, more stuff. So I'm not a more stuff guy when it comes to that kind of thing. So anyway, I was one of those bad dads that didn't let the kids keep the dopey toys with the Happy Meal. Like, give me the Happy Meal without the toy. I know that was brutal father, but that's what it was.
Man, your soul is black, sir.
It is dark, very dark.
Give me that Grimace, kid. Smash it right in front of them. Throw it in the garbage can. That's what you got up there on the shores of Maine. Listen, let's see what we've got here. Have you guys gotten your adult Grimace? Hit us up. Let us. A lot of people in the chat saying they all got the Cactus Jack guy. Yeah, he's. Oh wait, Grickles, he got a Grimace. There you go. Two for 2 here on the Grimace side. Everybody wants Grimace. You can feel the bag. I felt it. I knew it wasn't Grimace, and I was quite upset. So yes, that was there for the Grimace, baby. All right, let's see what you folks are here for right now. And Uncle Mike is correct. No VIX spike necessary. 44% of the audience. So maybe they've wised up since the May. Maybe they they've seen what's happened to this market now. They know VIX hasn't really been moving to the upside. So they're kind of like, shrugging their shoulders. Either way, 44% of you right now saying no VIX spike is necessary. Followed right behind it, 32% saying, yes, we do need one. And it's north of 40. Then we have a tie for third place, 12% each for north of 50 and north of 60. Get in there, add options. make your voice heard over there on Twitter. Maybe I'll see if I tweet out later on today a photo of my sweet, sweet grimace so you folks can all bask in the glory that is the adult McDonald's Happy Meal. All right, all these crazy biotech straddles and grimaces mean we have come to the end of this show, listeners. A fun one all around. What do you guys think of those crazy calls out there in everyone's new favorite name, Tricida, TCDA? There's some old school biotech juice happening out there, and it certainly is at the very least intriguing. But let's go around the horn. Let's start with the uncleist of Mikes. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir. If folks want to reach out to you to discuss adult Happy Meals or crazy biotech calls or anything else, where should they go? What should they do?
First off, follow me on Twitter. I like to put out a lot of content, so check me out at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW. If you're interested in working with a financial advisor who likes grimace and options, go to my website, stcharleswealth.com, to figure out how to contact me.
There we go. He likes Grimace. He's a good man out there. Our chat doesn't think you know who Grimace even is, Mr. Rock Lobster. So maybe disabuse them of that notion. And where should they go if they want to question you about such important things?
Grimace. I remember him. He wasn't what did he like? Was he like the shake guy or the French fry guy?
No, he was the big purple guy.
I mean, I remember him being the big purple guy, but what was his favorite? I don't remember his favorite McDonald's.
Oh, his food? Snack. I do not remember that either. I don't know.
I think just, if you're going to be huge and purple, I guess you just like everything.
You eat it all, baby.
I guess, yeah. I mean, but I do agree that Grimace, I think it was my favorite. Ronald McDonald always is a little scary to me.
Yeah, way too creepy for me. Grimace, much better.
Yeah, a little bit. Of course, people can go to optionpit.com, ask for Ted or other Andrew for some of our products and services. If you want to learn how this option thing works, we have been in business for 11 years. I can't even believe it as I say it. And so also, what am I looking at? I guess we're waiting for that number tomorrow. And if it's a little light, you know, hope will spring eternal once again in the S&P 500. So we'll see how that shakes out.
We shall see indeed. OptionPit.com. I know they're only children. They've only been around 11 years. They haven't been around, let's say, 16 years like the Options Insider Radio Network. You can probably trust them. You know, they'll give them a few more years. They'll get their act together. I get it. In the meantime, OptionPit.com is the place to go. We got to get on out of here. We'll be back in a little bit with Dan the Man Grams, and maybe he's got a sweet grimace on his desk. We'll find out in a little bit. And then, of course, back again tomorrow to break down all this mad world of volatility. Volatility Views, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. You know, we got so busy, I forgot to name the winner of the box. All right, we're gonna draw it on Monday's show. So the winner of the wrestling game on Monday will get to pick the winner of the box. So yeah, we got distracted with Grimace and everything else. I apologize. All right, Vol Views tomorrow, noon Central. Options Oddities after that, and then back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.